for registering these sessions to join to be with us, talking about these topics from PwD to PoD. Before I start the sessions, may I ask about, do you know what is PwD, first of all? Okay, another. Can you name what is PwD?
People with disability.
Yeah, person with disability or people with disability. And what is PoD indeed? I prefer to say that. What is PoD indeed? People or persons? Difference. Yes. People with disability to people of differences. And what is this? Anyone have read the descriptions of these sessions? I think so, I hope so. If not, just a very brief introduction. First of all, I introduce myself, the facilitator of today's sessions. I'm Cora, CEO of Dialogue in the Dark, Hong Kong Foundations. Actually, our company's mission is nurturing and advocating people of differences in Hong Kong, even extend Hong Kong as well, because we do believe that we have to highlight individuals' capabilities instead of addressing their disability. So today, I'm very happy to have two speakers here. Indeed, we have three speakers, but Link cannot be able to join today, but he has recorded a video to share. So during the sessions, we will have his sharing as well. And let me introduce Marina, just sit next to me, from Zhuhai, and then in Taichung.
Zhuhai is here.
Oh, Zhuhai is here, sorry. Well, I'm very glad that we have a lot of friends in Europe, delegates, developed, and then support PoDs and inclusive employment. So Taichung is a very forward-looking company, and they have a 3-month training program, train up those persons with intellectual needs, and then as capable workers in their factory. So Marina later on will share more with us and how she lead the team and lead the factories, as well as her personal inspirations. And for Walter, a young man sitting next to Marina, and he has his good friends, buddy, Renji, with him as well. So I guide on. So be nice to him, and then both. Is this a male or female? Renji? Male. Okay. Two gentlemen on the stage, and 2 ladies on the stage. Oh, 3. Will be 3, including Mila as well. And Walter, a local role model of people of differences. From my perspective, Walter, I have never shared in front of him in that way. But Walter, as a visually impaired, he dedicated himself very much how to enable and empower people with a disability, especially for those with high education background. Because you all may know, in Hong Kong, even this is a social or a regional or global issues, for those highly educated people with a disability or people with differences. From now on, I will take away all PwD. We will only focus on PoD. For those highly educated PoD, generally speaking, their employment rate is very low. We are now in Hong Kong. Make a guess. Do you know the employment rate of Hong Kong PoD with post-secondary education, the percentage? Make a guess. And I give you some background data. In Hong Kong, the general unemployment rate is less than 5%. Make a guess, what is the employment rate for those PoD with post-secondary education background?
0.1%.
0.1, oh, don't be so No, a little bit higher, much more higher.
I would like it to be higher. You said 5%, so then.
How about the audience? Make a guess. Yes, I see some discussions over there. Anyone want to make a try? 1? Okay.
20.
20. more than 20, a little bit more than 20. It's talking about 35% according to the government census statistic data. So that is very sad. And there's a lot of valuable assets being wasted. No matter that graduates cannot find a job or the employers cannot locate that group of talents. So today, we will focus how to change that perspective. It is not purely one-sided issues. So it is both-sided. The whole ecosystem, how we can facilitate from employer side, let's say that is the supply side, and from the demand side, how we can educate, train them up, train this group of educators or potential PoD to unleash their potentials to be a valuable social asset in the workplace. So we focus very much how we can unleash oneself potentials and turn their capabilities to perform well in the workplace. And because we do believe that a dignified job can enhance self-esteem, can enhance true social inclusions. So with no further delays, so let's give a big applause to our speaker. And I will pass the mic to them to share their company information first. And after that, we will have a panel discussions. So why not we start from Marina, and then Walter, and later on we will share the preparations from Ling later on as well. Okay, Marina, please. Are you okay?
Hello everyone, I'm Marina from the Inclusion Factory in Taizan. And first I would like to apologize because after coming here and seeing our audience, I think that my presentation is not very accessible to the people with visual impairment. PPT is fine, but the video is not so much, but I will do my best. And for next time, I will prepare better. I would like to start with a short video first.
At the Taizan Inclusion Factory, every morning starts cheerfully with a round of exercise. Since 2015, people with intellectual disabilities can find meaningful employment here, most of them for the very first time in their lives. According to national statistics, at the Taizan Inclusion Factory, every morning starts cheerfully with a round of exercise. Since 2015, people with intellectual disabilities can find meaningful employment here, most of them for the very first time in their lives. According to national statistics, there are over 6 million people with intellectual disabilities in China. The condition is still surrounded by stigma. Many of them just stay home.
Society always tells you, you are not as everyone else. And then they come working here, and the parents say, wow, my son or my daughter is exactly like everyone else. He also works, he also gets salary, he also has friends, he leaves home in the morning, he comes back in the afternoon. So my son is actually, is just a person. And there is a disability, but it's only a small part of him, and it doesn't describe him.
At the Taizan Inclusion Factory, 25 employees with intellectual disabilities produce component parts for industrial customers. This is made possible through simplified workflows and additional layers of security in each machine. And most importantly, by giving each employee very real responsibilities and accountabilities.
Our goal here is to help our employees to become as independent as possible, and would like them to be able to live on their own.
The Taizang Inclusion Factory is strongly supported by the Taizang local government, the DEG, as well as partners from the German business community in Taizang. After successfully blazing the trail for inclusion on the factory floor, the Taizang Inclusion Factory started the Inclusion Advisory, offering a set of methods and tools to make the approach replicable. With those tools at hand, inclusion can now be practiced in an economically viable way.
So we proved this within the organization here, that in our walls of 25 people we have one today. And now we come to the next step of our evolution to really take this concept and put it somewhere else in other organizations.
Flex, the Fortune 500 global electronics manufacturer, was the first to heed the call. In their Zhuhai campus, with almost 30,000 staff, Flex were already employing people with disabilities. In 2018, they decided to venture even further.
People with intellectual disabilities have not been included, so it was clear for us that for making this step, being even more inclusive than before, we have to have experts. So Taizang was the ideal partner to do so.
Now 10 intellectually disabled people work in Flex Zhuhai's so-called mechanical inclusive factory, after an intensive job training provided with the help of the Inclusion Advisory. A chance to show their real potential every day.
My name is Liu Paul. I am 23 years old.
So do you like work for Flex?
Yeah,
Yes. You feel happy here?
yeah.
With the Inclusion Advisory, the Taizang Inclusion Factory hopes to roll out the concept of inclusion at factory floors and workshops across China. The tools are all here.
We would definitely recommend companies to try and practice inclusion. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be rewarding for sure. It makes you as an employer show that you are actually growing roots in the Chinese society.
Flex is already doing it. So everybody here hopes that more companies will be joining in.
After this video, I would like to talk a little bit about numbers. The video mentioned there are 6 million people with intellectual disabilities, but the numbers in China for people with other disabilities are much higher. We're talking about 85 million people. It encompasses all kinds of disabilities, and according to official reports, 9 million of them are employed. But 5 million is fake employment, meaning China is a quota country. So for every 100 employees, you must hire 1.5% people with disabilities. And companies often feel it's a burden, it's too difficult. So what they're doing, they're putting the people on their payroll, but they don't need to come to work. It's a brilliant solution. Which leaves us actually with 4 million people who are employed out of 85 million. If we take away the elderly, the children, the people who are not able to move at all, we still are left with a huge number of people who are not working. And the reasons for this are plenty, but I think the biggest one is that we are all aiming to hear with this concept of inclusion, that people with disabilities are part of are just a part. It's not them and us, it's us. But in fact, I think most of the times we are still here with this exclusion, because at least in China, oftentimes you never see people with disabilities on the streets. Maybe sometime one man with a wheelchair and everybody is proud to mention it, but the fact that you can remember means that it's opportunity is scarce. And now all kind of steps are being taken in form of integration, so just including, but in a limited way. But I still hope that this integration part is a slow step to the change, and eventually we will get here. It will take some time, but we will get here. Now, because this exists and people with disabilities, especially with intellectual disabilities, have no employment opportunities, our factory was established. And our main goal is to help people with intellectual disabilities to be included in society using dignified, meaningful employment, vocational training, and personal development plans. So currently, the video said 25, it's 29 now. We have 25 employees with intellectual disabilities, mainly. They're all having paid jobs, social funds, everything that every other employee would get. So we are a regular company, but we're employing a lot of people of differences, and actually we all are. So. This is a little bit of background, how it all started. Taicang is a city, relatively small, 1 million people in China scope. So it is a German city. We have roughly 260 German companies. And these German companies are part of an association called Taicang Roundtable. Sorry. Called here, Taicang Roundtable. And they are a non-profit organization. They decided to do something good for the society. And after doing all kinds of projects and charity and so, they decided to do something more sustainable. So because most of them are German, and in Germany there is a very successful model called Lebenshilfe. So it's like factories like ours, but in a much bigger scale, and they're already operating for 60 years. They decided actually to copy this Lebenshilfe to Taicang. And we are currently supported by the local government and the German government, financially, mainly. It was very important for us to do products that are actually needed in the industry, because oftentimes people with intellectual disabilities are doing all kinds of things which are purchased just because you feel, I would like to support. It's not necessarily a needed product. And our product is, we are working for the automotive industry, so we are doing, let's say, 10% for the customer, and the rest, 90%, he's doing in-house. So this is part of cars, some is electric components, so meaning all these products are useful in the open market, which is also very important for our employees to see I'm doing something that is valuable. It's said that impairment plus barrier is disability, and if you remove the barrier, the disability becomes ability. And for us, we are actually always thinking how to make our people to work as efficiently as possible in relation to their own abilities. So we are, just for an estimation, roughly 200% slower than other companies, like our customers, and our judgment ability is a little bit lower. So for this, we also have a solution. First of all, we have a color system. You can see it in the middle. So it's very clear where are the raw material, where are the finished goods, and where are the scrap. So it's blue, green, and red. We have all our fixtures and machinery, which we develop ourselves. It's poka-yoke, meaning there is only one way to do a project, and if you put it in the wrong way, it just will not move. So you don't need to judge anything. You just put it, and if you don't put it right, the machine will tell you need to flip it over. And of course, safety measures. So oftentimes we get a product and it's not safe enough for us. So we just, again, we develop it to be as safe as possible for our employees. And by all three of those, we are able to be much faster than we are and produce very high quality. So this is about the factory. And we started in the beginning of 2015 with 12 people. And just a sheltered factory, people with disabilities working, or people with differences, working with people with differences. And then we thought we actually can do more, and we should do more. And we thought that we can actually develop our employees and help them to go to the open market. And at the same time, companies, open market companies, started approaching us saying, we want to hire people, but we don't know where they are. We don't know who will actually train them, how to communicate with them, so we need assistance. And we actually realized that we are not the end. In the beginning, we were just a factory. And then we thought that actually our factory is a development center, or training center, if you may. So in our factory, receiving vocational training, personal development plans, our people like our employees can go to the open market employment, and by this we can really achieve full inclusion in society. And that is why, as mentioned in the video as well, we established the Inclusion Advisory. We wanted to duplicate the model for a very long time. And then we thought that maybe the best way to do it is through these integrated lines and providing support and employment. And I will explain. First, when companies come to us, even if they want to hire, let's say they say to us, okay, we found the people and we are waiting with our facility, everything is ready. But then what about the other employees? The employees without disabilities, how will they react to the fact that they have a colleague who has a disability, especially intellectual disability? This is question number one. The second question is, who will actually manage these people? Okay, we hire them, but I'm not going to do it. So how will we train them? How will they know how to work? If they have some, I don't know, behavior issues, who will actually work with the people? And the third question is, where do we find those people? Because even for us, we actually had a documentarian coming over 3 days ago, and she told us, probably you have people queuing here in the door. The reality is, no, we are very struggling to find people, just because of the reasons I mentioned before. So for this reason, we first we are doing disability awareness seminars for these other employees to change the way people with disabilities are viewed in the society, and hopefully they understand that it's actually people. So I have my own differences and they have their own differences as well. This is number one. We have, like Cora mentioned, 3-month training program. So it's a train-the-trainer program basically. So we're training social workers, like our sweet Hyen. So social workers and special education teachers to be able to work in an environment like ours. The 3-month program. And the last but not the least, we have a cooperation with special education schools, and this is they are coming to us in their last year of high school. And after this year, they are ready. We are doing a transition program from school to work, and eventually we are recruiting them. And then some success stories. So with the supported employment, this is Huang Jia. It's our employee, our first employee who actually left us and went to the open market company. It's a German company called Gear, also in Taizang, already a year ago. So she's the first one to leave. She has been with us for 4 years. And after we felt that she's ready, she left us with sadness and very much happiness for her, because we always release the more the employees with the higher skills. So for us as a company, it's not so good, but for her it's an amazing opportunity, and we hope to have more employees in the future like her. And then of course there is Flex. So maybe not 12 employees anymore. How many? 14. So 14 now. So Flex, Fortune 500 company, they have 500 employees with disabilities, hearing, speech impairment, physical disabilities, and then they raise the glove to do this internally, meaning to copy our model internally. Whereas we need to always look for customers outside, Flex just do it in-house, and then part of the products are done by people with intellectual disabilities. And we just realized that maybe this is the easiest way to duplicate a model. And we did this with Flex last year, and we are starting with L'Oreal now. We're doing an inclusive line for them in their warehouse. And my final slide is just to share for the past 5 years we're doing this. So we learned many things, and the first one is that when we believe that our employees can, they also believe they can, and their families believe they can. I think the biggest change we've seen here, besides their ability to work and self-esteem and everything, is how it improves their relationship inside the house. From before, when parents thought that maybe what will happen to my son once I'm gone, what will happen to my son, can he even work, and maybe he's a little bit different. And then after coming to our factory, they see, okay, actually my son can work, and he can work well, and he also earns his salary. And basically, it's a sense of pride. So believe they can, they also believe they can. Secondly, that there is much more to be done, and we want to do it fast, but the reality is that we need to have patience, and with baby steps, slowly, we will spread more and more and more, and hopefully, okay, 85 billion is a big number, but I think we can do much more than we do now. And last but not the least, that we are all people with differences, and we discovered that with the proper accommodation, and the suitable training for different people, because people tend to see people with disabilities as one kind of person. Well, it's not true. It's like we are different, so each one is different. And when you have the proper environment and proper accommodation and proper training, so people with disabilities actually become people of differences, like all of us. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very encouraging and passionate sharings indeed. From Marina's sharings, we can see how passionate her about what she's doing right now. Because doing nurturing social inclusions is not easy, indeed. You are not only doing for your own good, for your own company, but how to replicate your models and then to extend this and then to influence others. So be very, very honest. In Hong Kong, and as a Chinese as well, when I look at these foreign models dedicate themselves to make a difference in China, mainland China. So we should do more water. Yes. Definitely we should do more as well. And we have very, very good role models in Hong Kong, in Asia, in China, and all that. That is a very amazing West meets East collaborations. So definitely, you may have some questions in mind. Would like to ask about the factory's operations, how that kind of questions. Hold this at the end, and we will have some Q&A sessions. So after we has just heard about Marina's sharings, let's go to a local sharings by Waters. As I said, Waters, you can get prepared for that. And Renji as well. Renji has to. Okay, Renji and Water, please. And as I said, Waters graduates in Hong Kong Universities, year 2010. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes. And then after that, he dedicated his time empowering and enabling others. Similar kinds of PoD, and then would like to enable them to have a better job opportunities and employments. And he has a group of alumni and members, over hundreds of tertiary educators PoD. And indeed, right now, in the floor, we have a few local PoD as well, performing different, having different kinds of employments locally.
While we are waiting.
Yes, while we are waiting, I'm trying to
introduce the PoD here.
Yes, let me try to introduce a few PoD here. But of course, everyone is PoD in this, but at this moment, we have not evolved to that part. In the first row, we have Angela from China. Angela, stand up. Yes. Angela is one of the graduates from one of the graduates from the Dialogue Academy, Spanish by Dialogue in the Dialogue Foundations, and right now she's employed by FLES, yes, and that is working in Zhuhai. And Wolfers, Cecilia, Walter, let me know once you're ready. And Cecilia, right now she is the inclusion consultant at Dialogue Experience, and then doing job coach kind of work as well, enabling local PoD for job employment coaching and some counseling service as well. And next to Cecilia is Joy. Joy is the compliance consultant of Dialogue Experience as well. So I have a lot of fans to support me. Actually, all of them are from my company. And Joy is newly joined our company. She's a lawyer indeed, and should be the first visually impaired lawyers in Hong Kong. I hope there will be more coming. So, Walter, are you ready now? Okay. So, give a big applause to Walter. Thank you, Walter.
Thank you very much, Cora, and I'm very honored to be able to speak in this stage in the summit. And then, so today I'm going to share a little bit about my own story, and then afterwards would be talking more about the work that we have been doing. And so, first of all, I would like to introduce my colleague Vicky today, and she is also a visually impaired person and just graduated from Ningnan University, and then helping us to do the public education part. And then if you go online to visit our Facebook page, and actually you will notice how busy she is, and because we are having a lot of videos, and then one of the direction I would go to mention in the PowerPoint as well. So first of all, I would like to jump into my own story. So the picture in front of you is a photos when I was 3 years old, because I discovered my visual impairment when I was 3 years old, but I hated these photos a lot because I felt I'm kind of weird comparing to other kids. And because when I was 3 years old, I need to wear fake glasses that I somehow feel quite ugly. And at the time, so because I go to the kindergarten in around the early 90s, and at the time there's no one talking about integration education and what is special needs and disabilities. And so somewhat I felt kind of separated and not quite integrated into that environment. And so that I always have this little cute dog doll to actually be friends with me, and then I kind of always talk to my good friend there. But eventually, after I got Rangy, my guide dog with me, and then I felt it's a destiny to have a best companion. Actually, it is a beautiful dog to work with me. So going back to my childhood time. So actually, I'm so, but it's kind of a sad story from my family. But eventually become my blessing, because my mother's side is having a very sad family, because my mother have two uncles passed away in a very early time. My mother's older brother passed away in the age of 22 because of the congenital heart disease. And also my second uncle, my mother's second brother, and also passed away in the age of 47 because of the type 1 diabetes. So when she discovered my visual impairment, actually she noticed that, oh, visual impairment is not going to cause death. So it's okay. And the doctor is kind of funny, but I think it's one of the very important sentence to my parents. Because the doctor saying to my parents that Walter can do anything besides being a pilot. Okay, then my mother actually a very, very simple person, and then he really trusts that and really allow me to do anything. So this is very important for people with disabilities. I'm so grateful to my family. They inject a lot of great energy, allow me to become independent, and then eventually find the lucky experience to help others. Because one of the stories from my mother is when in the Hong Kong family, usually people, the parents, always want the kids to stay with them, and then even those I get married, and then they always, the traditional is always keep the room there, and then in case of anything bad happen or good happen, and then you need to come back to share with them, whatever. But my mother is kind of funny, because after 2 weeks time, after I get married and move out, and then my room is totally destroyed. And all my things already moved out, and then it's become my older brother's domestic helper's room. So actually, how the empowerment from my families giving me, and also how my parents accept me, and so that I accept myself is very important. So since I know my visual impairment, I was having around 30% eyesight when I was 3 years old, but now it's less than 10%. It's close to legally blind, simply talking. So I know I have a limit anyway in my vision. So eventually I took as much time as I can to see about the world so that I can have more exposure. But going back to the education system in Hong Kong, since 1994, when I was going to primary school. And then since my older brother went to that primary school, according to the system, actually I have a very high marks to go to the same primary school with my older brother, so that they could not be able to kick me out. But actually, when I was in primary school 1 and secondary school 1, both of the time, teachers are doubting my abilities to adopt to the mainstream schooling system and saying to my parents that Walter probably cannot be able to study, and then you may need to change another school. So that is, the abundance is always around us about the stigma coming from the education system. But kind of lucky because I went to a very not very good school, and eventually I'm not always scoring the least in the class, so that's why they have no excuse to kick me out eventually. And since I'm in a band 3 secondary school, so I focus a little bit more than my classmates, so that I could be able to achieve quite a good academic achievement in the secondary school. But along with my education, my school life, it was a very important message that I got, is the blessing being held. Because I remember a situation, is a story in my 9 years old time when I was in primary school, because I cannot read anything on a blackboard, so that the teacher allowed me to go on closer to the blackboard in order to copy the notes in the class. But my classmate asking me to get away, can I just help you to copy? And I feel so angry, because how come I can do it, but you don't allow me to do it? But eventually, I throw a rubber to my classmates, and then we become a best friend until now. But the lessons was, actually we need to understand about your strengths and weaknesses. That's something you get help from the other people. It's not because you're weak, but because you know what is your strength and what is your abilities and also your weaknesses. As anybody else, people with disabilities is just having a more obvious, explicit kind of weaknesses that you can be able to see as people with on wheelchair, with crutches, with hearing aids, with a guide dog, with a white cane. But so do anybody else. We do have our strengths and weaknesses, and we do need to deal with that in school, in the workplace, and also as managers, you do need to deal with your staff about their weaknesses and strengths. But I learned about something that I cannot insist from sports, because I like to play sports a lot. So you don't know why, but I don't know why as well. I don't know why I could be able to play soccer, but one of the more proudest moments that I have was be able to play soccer in a soccer team when I was an exchange student in the United States. The coach really gave me a lot of good exposure to play on the field in every competition, and I'm so grateful to that. And the most memorable moment was I actually cannot see the ball, and I could be able to see people, the players, so that I'd be a defender and not a goalie or the roles that were sensitive on the ball. So eventually I get a red card out of the field because I don't even see the ball. Eventually I kick a lot of people down. But I'm so grateful that I can fully participate in this game, in this sport. So, but something that I couldn't insist is when I was in secondary school, around the age of 13 or 14, I like to ride bicycle a lot, but of course it's kind of a dangerous driver. But one time, it's a heavy raining night, and then I noticed there's a very big light coming towards me, and I step backward one step, and eventually it's a bus running over to my front wheel of my bicycle. And then eventually, of course, I run into the bicycle store and then fix my bike and then not letting my parents know I got that kind of dangerous moment. But eventually I noticed that my eyesight is deteriorating so that I cannot be able to ride bicycle. It's way very dangerous for that. So what I learned from my early, when I was in school, is people always want to beat up other people. I always want to win because I want to prove to other people that I'm capable. And for somebody who is challenging me about my abilities, I always want to let them know that I'm strong. But something after I worked in the workplace, I learned about actually being strong and being confident not means that you need to exaggerate your ability. You just need to accept yourself. And the second thing is about when you need to learn about other things, you need to be humble. But when you learn from other people, you don't need to feel inferior. And that is the most important message that I got from my school life. And why talking about my organization, charity, why I would found my NGO CARE is because I have a very interesting experience in university. This photos is coming from one of the cable TV program. The journalist asked me to pretend how sad I was in university, and I noticed that I always want to be a good actor. But the most important thing is in the year of 2014 and before, it was having no person in the university dedicated to support the higher educated students with disabilities to ensure their examination arrangement, school life, dormitory arrangement. And you can imagine in the Chinese U, I need to walk across the mountain to go to different departments in the university to sort out my school life, like in the faculty, liberal studies, and also the dormitory and all the arrangement. So I was so frustrated, and one point of time I almost want to quit my university program, but eventually I stay on. But on the other side, about my career, so when I was in university, it was the year of 2008 to start my year one study. So the year I heard about a very tragic news about a hearing impaired girl graduated from universities and committed suicide because she could not be able to find a suitable job for a long, long time. So I know it was a tough journey. And eventually, I started in year one. I went to Germany to work in a social enterprise, and thanks to Dialogue in the Dark back in time, allowed me to have that kind of opportunity to go to Frankfurt to got the training. And come back to Hong Kong, I got a very lucky opportunity to work in UBS and Goldman Sachs. And of course, you would think, wow, Walter, you got a very nice CV, and then you're even better than a lot of young people. Yes, I know. But eventually, when I take that CV out in the jobs DBs and other platforms, I noticed that I took more than half year. I still cannot be able to find my first job. So what happened during the interviews? They spent more than 2/3 of the time asking me about, well, how can you go on the MTR? How can you pick up the phone calls? And then, well, it's one of the most difficult questions I ever had because I just step on the MTR and then the MTR would move. So how can you pick up the phone calls? Just when the phone rings and just pick it up. Actually, all the accessibility is already in place, but the employers may not know about that. So I'm lucky that I got a help from a headhunter and voluntarily placed my CV into a construction firm, and eventually I become a data entry clerk for 3 months contract, and then they said that, well, you did a good job, and then how about you do it another 6 months of data entry? Yes, of course, because I have no choice. And eventually, after the 9 months of data entry, eventually I can get a permanent offer in that construction firm, and I feel lucky about developing, be able to develop my career in the human resources area. So back in time, I felt so lucky because when I just getting my full-time jobs, I already think about doing something in the society because I felt that I have a very lucky experience in school and I could be able to get a job. And then I don't want to see anybody else with a similar background fighting in the same battlefield all the time. So thanks to all the former employers that I have, because I always stole the time in the work in the office hour to start establish my charity, carry out. So hopefully they find I'm not too lazy for the daytime job, but I eventually quit my full-time job from my last job, which was in L'Oreal as the HR coordinator, to find my organization. So Carry Out was founded in 2014 with 3 founders and a group of passionate alumni with disabilities from university. And then we registered as a charity in 2014. And what we are trying to do is we want to focus on ability, not disability, because we accept any students and graduates from all aspects of disability and special needs. Because you can imagine, no one would write a job description, job requirement that I want to look for somebody who cannot do Excel, who cannot see, who cannot hear. So we noticed that people are looking for talents, but not the weaknesses. So we truly believe people with disabilities, including anyone, do have our strength and could be able to get create values in their employers, in the workplace. So we focus on ability, not disabilities, and then we are the first organization trying to gather around a talents pool for people with higher education with disability, and then we use a headhunting model to support people with disabilities to find the right jobs. So what means by a headhunting model? So actually we act like totally the same as a recruiter, a recruitment agency, but just we do not charge. We raise our fundings to support our services to provide that kind of recruitment agency support for both employers and also our candidates. So what we are trying to do is having 2 focuses. One is focus on supporting employers, which we have a ABLE model, because we focus on building the employers for a longer-term disability inclusion strategy, including like assessing the accessibility, including the building design, as well as the online platform. Because a lot of the big companies actually use online recruitment system to support. The second thing is identify business needs, because CSR is just one of the passion to start with, but actually how to solve the business manpower needs is the most important thing. And of course, learning and eventually leading to experience is really hire people with disabilities to work together in a team. For our students, actually we set up a student union and alumni union in a Carry Out team. And also we started our first student union since 2016. We invite a student with disabilities and special needs come to Carry Out to build a student union by people with disabilities. So it is another very important belief. Carry Out, another meaning is care up. People with disabilities is not only waiting for people to help them, but they can be able to contribute to their peers and the community. So we do a lot of social media, we do workshops, and then we have peer support, alumni support to support our students and graduates to develop themselves and also find the right jobs. So in the past few years, we have been working with more than 100 employers across different sectors, including multinational companies, local big conglomerates, small, medium-sized enterprise, social enterprise, small, medium-sized, early startup as well. So totally, we have successfully placed more than 230 placements, including full-time, part-time, and internship. And the total beneficiaries are more than 150 people with different kind of disabilities. And right now, according to our database, we have actually every week we have new members to join. So right now we have more than 500 candidates with disabilities in our database, and they're coming from different universities, different field of studies, and different kind of disabilities. A lot of the employers asking me, what kind of jobs would be suitable to your candidates? I would tell them, actually you're kind of asking universities kids what kind of jobs suitable for any university graduates. Actually, we have all the talents that's having different kind of backgrounds and education backgrounds, and even those students coming from foreign studies as well. So, towards the end of the my sharing, I would like to summarize from people with disabilities to people of differences. Actually, it is coming from the ideas of accepting your disabilities and do not feel inferior about your disabilities, so that you can be able to accept others. And then you can be able to, as we said, is talents no boundaries. You can be able to contribute yourself without any boundaries, and eventually run your own projects and your team. So the most satisfied part that I'm doing on my charity is seeing a lot of our alumni, our student graduates could be able to develop their career, not just employment, not just recruitment. It's about career development, so that eventually they can develop their life. Actually not just one, it's a lot of our students and our graduates. Eventually I'm so happy to see them building their own family and then going to the wedding ceremony, to knowing that they could be able to earn their living and to have their family. So I'm very thankful to Cora to say I'm a role model, but one of the things that I'm trying to do is not just building role models, because we're trying to build a community for people with disabilities to fly high. And one thing is we try to avoid heroizing any people with disabilities is a hero. And that is our very important public education direction is we are building a community, not building a specific person. And I'm also feeling that I'm kind of a lucky person to standing in front of you to share about my story, but my story is not a single story. There are a lot of the students and graduates with similar backgrounds, similar stories, and also similar abilities that could be able to share. But the last but not least, talking about because I know today summit is talking about I think the happiness is really important. So I took these slides. It's talking about one of the very, very famous people who bring happiness to other people. So working as a social innovation is about it's not about romantic. It is about, first of all, trying to put your strength to make your living, because you need to make your project sustainable in order to help more people. The second thing is do whatever you can except breaking the law, so it would be okay. So eventually, trying to appreciate yourself, you have been doing good. And of course, if you're a person who want to help other people, you never think you could be doing perfect. So appreciate yourself, and it is the end of my presentation and sharing, and feel free to ask me questions. Thank you very much.
So a very touching sharing. sharings. It's my very first time to hear such a comprehensive sharing by Walter, though I know him for years. A long time when I dedicated myself into social enterprise business since year 2013. And I personally witnessed the transformations of Waters a lot, very humble sharings, and still, in my words, the role models as a PoD in Hong Kong, we do need role model, but not hero. Role model means the one who dare to challenge oneself's limits, not break the norm, but dare to challenge your own limits, and dare to stand out and work out and live out an extraordinary life. Also, that is the most touching things that Water is showing us. And I'm glad that Hong Kong, of course, not only Water, but we do need some young generations as our role models. I learned from KK that we are old enough. We need young generations to change, to be the advocates. So we have speakers from Israel, working in China, doing a great difference in the inclusion factories, and we have Waters demonstrate himself how to work, live out an extraordinary life. And we have one more speaker, though he cannot make himself today because he got sick. He's Link, and then Link is not a PoD, should not be from appearance, but and he dedicated himself very much using technologies to enable a group of PoD in China as well. So he did prepare a video and the sharings. So upcoming please, Milas, maybe we can share link sharings first. So this will be. So this will be a local Chinese trying to change the perspective of PwD
生活在有网络的地方，购买了上网设备，还有稳定的经济收入，却经历着糟糕的互联网用户体验。他们是1.3亿老年人、7000万读写障碍者、2000万听障者和1300万视障者，他们被统称为障碍群体。他们中大部分人已经是中国7亿网民的一员。互联网是他们日常生活的刚性需求，并且用的产品不是所谓的老人版、盲人版，而是大众正在使用的普通版本。唯一特别的是，由于障碍群体需要通过读屏软件等辅助工具上网，所以只有考虑了信息无障碍的产品，才能被他们顺畅使用。什么是信息无障碍？这个概念翻译自 accessibility， 大意是通过无障碍专业知识体系，在产品现有基础上提升可用性和易用性，使产品能被所有人顺畅使用。遗憾的是，中国社会对障碍群体了解太晚，多数公司刚开始意识到，忽略了这庞大用户群。要知道，在欧美，信息无障碍被每一家公司都视作必不可少。于是我们决定协助各行业做好无障碍，提供无障碍测试、咨询、培训、公关等全方位服务。手机 QQ、支付宝、百度输入法等大量产品都与我们建立了合作。我们是中国目前唯一的无障碍解决方案供应商。团队最早从2005年开始专注无障碍领域，具备10多年专业经验，拥有包括国际无障碍标准制定者以及中国首位无障碍硕士等在内的顶级专家，更有众多本身既是障碍人士，同时精通 IT 和无障碍专业知识的特殊人才。另外，我们自有数个面向障碍群体的互联网产品，直接覆盖数十万障碍用户。不仅如此，我们还联合阿里巴巴、腾讯、百度等公司，成立了中国信息无障碍产品联盟，让大家看到，无论是互联网行业，还是金融行业、医疗行业、政府部门，只要有面向个人用户的产品，信息无障碍都能带来不可替代的商业价值。至今为止，已有近100家公司、政府单位、国际组织加入了联盟。无论是国外的经验，还是国内的现状，都可以清晰地看到，信息无障碍是各行业发展的必然趋势。当然， 信息无障碍是一系列方法论和技术的集合，互联网仅仅是应用领域之一，其核心是不依赖单一感官获取信息。我们已有大量积累，不久的将来，无论是每个人的日常生活，还是军工、科研等尖端领域，都可以用信息无障碍创造无限可能，为人类发展做出贡献。
There will be one more sharings by link personally, but it is very important to apply latest technologies and accessibility technologies as well to demonstrate how we can leverage on PoD's talents. Because in IT world, there's a lot of jobs can be performed by PoD. So let's play the video by link.
大家好，我是联地信息无障碍有限责任公司的创始人梁振宇。非常荣幸能够和大家来分享我关于这个论坛这个话题的观点。我总记得在将近10年前，我刚开始做公益、做社会企业的时候，接到的第一个任务是去深圳市图书馆的视障阅览室，给那里的老师呢当助教，教什么呢？教盲人怎么用电脑，教视障者怎么样去操作电脑、操作手机，甚至去编程。去的路上我就很纳闷了，我就心里想说，这个视障者他眼睛看不见，他怎么样去使用电脑，怎么样去看屏幕啊？是不是我把任务给听错了？原来说到了现场非常的震撼啊！这个2台电脑靠着墙啊，屏幕都是关着的，视障者坐在电脑前啪啪敲打键盘，旁边呢有穿着红色衣服的义工在教他们啊，跟他们说你应该怎么操作，应该怎么去用。原来视障者通过一些软件的辅助叫做读屏软件这样的辅助工具，他呢就可以去操作，就可以去使用电脑包括手机都是一样的道理，把文字转换成声音。那么事情就真的这么美好吗？因为后来我才发现，不是这样的。读屏软件去把电脑端的软件或者说手机端的 APP 去转换成语音的这么一个过程当中呢，双方是需要去匹配的。那用我们的专业的话说，叫做需要去解决这个 APP 或者软件的无障碍 bug 如果这个 bug 没有解决，读屏软件是读不出声音来的，或者说是没办法去顺畅的去操作、去浏览。那在中国内地绝大多数的产品，绝大多数的软件、互联网产品，它都是没有去解决无障碍 bug 的。那这就导致什么呢？这就导致只有极少数的视障者。想要去使用的软件能够去被视障者顺畅使用。那我就想到说，我们去帮助残障者，我们去帮助视障者，有没有可能我们去解决最根本的问题、最根源的问题？他们除了说，我做盲人按摩他们除了说我去获得人们关于柴米油盐、关于资金上的这些援助、这些捐赠，有没有可能我们通过科技的手段？让他们能够自己去获得更高附加值的就业，让他们自己去学习知识，去获得更多的技能，让他们自己通过互联网去实现平等的融入这个主流社会。那么，我觉得我找到了答案。我和我的团队去组建了一支由视障者组成的工程师团队。这么一支由视障者组成的工程师团队呢，他们去给各个互联网产品去做无障碍的检测。去告诉这些互联网产品的公司，你的产品哪些无障碍 bug，这些无障碍 bug 应该通过什么样的代码去改进，去解决问题，解决之后，视障者才能够去顺畅使用你的产品。那么到今天为止呢，国内已经有好几十家公司与我们合作。我们呢，也因为这件事情应该说是去全新的去发明了一个新的关于视障者的就业职业我们称之为视障信息无障碍工程师这么一个职业。那么对于他们来说呢，他们做着高附加值的 IT 类的工作，他们的职业尊严不比任何的IT 公司的白领要差他们创造的经济收入也足够养活自己和自己的家庭那这不就是一件非常非常美好的事情吗？那并不是说这个岗位、这个职业它就会比 盲人按摩这个职业要高贵啊，或者低贱或者怎么样，而是说这给予了视障者、给予了残障者一个更多的就业机会的这么一个选择。我会认为说这是一件非常非常美妙的事情。到今天为止，已经有10多位的视障者在我们这里做这么样的岗位。当然，我们未来也希望我们能够去培养更多的视障者，甚至是更多类型的残障者，来去做信息无障工程师这么一个职业来去让这个职业从一个小众的职业变成一个大众的职业，变成一个任何一个残障者只要他愿意，他都能够去做出的这么一个选择。那么还有一个我认为同样令人感到兴奋的事情是这些信息无障碍工程师，他们作为视障者、作为残障者本身他们从事这个职业，他们不仅仅创造了工作收入，帮助到了他们自己。与此同时，他们却让那些互联网产品做好了无障碍那些互联网产品得以被更多的视障者去使用，这导致什么呢？这导致更多的视障者得以通过互联网去平等的融入主流社会，去学习知识，去叫外卖，去打车，去网络购物，去社交去上网校等等等等等等这些东西。等于是说，他们不仅帮到了自己，他们还去帮到了更多的人。我会觉得说这件事情它的意义，它会有好几层的意义在这其中。这也是我们坚持这么多年坚持下来的原因所在。我也很愿意，我也有这个憧憬，能够把我机构、把我公司的经验，能够去分享给香港的更多的同胞们，甚至给亚洲、给全球的更多的人们、更多的公司们希望大家一起和我来去做这样的事情，让这个职业能够变成一个全球化的这么一个职业，那么也让更多的公众去认识到，去化解对视障者的误会，觉得说，哎呀，眼睛看不见，做盲人按摩这是一个非常非常经典的中国内部经常会有的这么一个误解。我希望通过这样的全新职业的蔓延，能够让人们知道说，原来只要我们健全人能做的事情，我们明眼人能做的事情，残障者、视障者他同样能做。大概这就是我想去分享的我的一个简单的故事吧。提不上观点重点还是本次论坛这个话题其他的嘉宾前辈们的东西，我也很愿意学习。非常遗憾不能够来到现场，再次感谢主办方，感谢各位听我唠叨这些，谢谢大家。
And we can see that not only would like to enable PoD through the generalizations of how to use computer browsing through the internet, enable them to connect with the world. More importantly, they train up that group of PoD to be the accessibility engineer. That is a new career options. As he said, not inferior or not superior than a massager, because doing a massage is a very honorable job to me. And every single job opportunities is really important. So what Lynn is doing is that enable a team of PoD to have optional employment opportunities, and that's very important. And he's not stop here. He's extending his team to assist other companies deliver service to solve their IT problems. So that will extend the social inclusions and extend the potential employments for PoD who can perform similar job as well. So it is really good that we have Ning in China as well, pioneering these services to enable more possibility to local PoD. So may I invite back Marina back onto the stage. So we have here the variable sharing from 3 speakers, and we have Marina's and Waters on site. First of all, any questions from the floor that you would like to ask? Any questions to whoever, Marina's or with our Western's role modeling and our local role model? Yes?
Yes, I have a question for Walter. Thank you very much for the presentation first. I just wanted to know if for the placement, are you placing people only in Hong Kong or is it in China mainland as well, or other countries?
So now our services is based in Hong Kong, and so we are actually our services is mainly in Hong Kong. But sometimes we also got some of the inquiries from Macau. So we have a few candidates also coming from Macau as well. But mainly our job placements for the 230s, most of them are in Hong Kong. But on the other side, we actually since last year, our student committee actually we finance our trip to Taiwan, and this year we go to Singapore out of our own pockets, and then we are trying to actually learning more about how other countries and Asia Pacific people doing and support people with disabilities as well. So, but our services is based in Hong Kong. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Indeed, in Hong Kong, there's another organization doing similar things. My organizations will train up some mainland PoD and then deploy them into mainland China. So Angela's is one of the examples. And so that's how we complement each other. Any other questions for our speaker? Yes? And I have your name and if possible, just, yeah.
Okay, I'm Sakura from Hong Kong Longer Times, and I have a question for Marina. It's mentioned that you want the PoD want to be valuable about their work that's done in factory, but for those work, like you can't, it's foreseeable that it's going to be replaced by AI and computer techniques. So what are they going to do, like in future? So are you going to train up them for the new techniques, or like, do you worry about this aspect? Thank you.
Thank you very much for this question. It's actually one of our one of the issues we're dealing with currently. First, I think for the simple tasks, it will take a little bit longer to be completely replaced by computers because of the cost. I mean, a company around us already started to be fully automated, but I think it will take more time. I would just like to say that we are working for the automotive industry because we're in a city where this is, I mean, most of the companies are automotive. If we would be in a place where the service industry is more strong, or like people are sewing clothes, we will do this. I mean, we didn't choose this as some kind of, we must do this or that. Currently we're doing this, but we're starting also to go to the service industry. So we would like to be prepared for that day if and when everything will be fully automated, our people can work in other environments. For example, hotels, for example, cafes, restaurants, and other things. But we still believe it would take, it would be so fast, the change. Maybe for the more complicated things, because once it's automated, there is no need for people at all, not only for disabilities. I mean, we have companies in our city that they have, it's only machinery and you have 3 or 4 people working there. And just to maintain the machines, maintain the robots. Yes, it's a good question. We will deal with it more, when we get there, but we are already starting to think in this direction.
Thanks for the questions. Indeed, actually the role of AI is not only an issue for PoD, it's a global issue. And as mentioned, shared by our post Secretary of Finance, and then he did mention that even in Hong Kong, that will be a challenge for those young graduates and how we are going to upgrade yourself. So going to targeting service industry definitely is one of the ways. Any other questions? Yes.
Hey, thank you for the sharing. My name is Rico from the Vision Projects. I have questions for Walter and Cora. So I have no doubt that you both are working really hard to train up people with different ability and to equip the skill and to fit into the working environment. And I'm so interested to find out or to know more how both of you equip the potential employer, especially in their work environment and their mutual understanding. Thank you.
Thanks, Rico. What do you go first?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Rico, for that. Actually, that is one of the challenges that we face. You very accurately point out, because first of all, I noticed that for employer training, and actually we're doing a lot of employer training, but when we are trying to upgrade our employer training from just actually doing some of the like lunch and learn and to be more content-based business case research. When we're doing that, we noticed that a lot of funders in Hong Kong, they are thinking about donating monies and then supporting projects which is directly contributing, like the counseling, coaching, and those kind of job placement services, which is more directly related to the beneficiaries. But we're actually doing a lot of public education now, and one thing is we are planning to have more works to be done on our LinkedIn, and also we're trying to do more public education with the evidence-based sharing, so that we could be able to share with all the successful business cases with our employers with references. So on the other side, actually in my team, we're trying to divide our team to support the 4 aspects of employers. One is multinational, second is the local conglomerates and SME, as well as a dedicated team to support the social enterprise and early startup. And those we categorize those 4 areas, those employers, their needs and strategies are totally different. And we're trying to have that kind of structure so that we can best support our employers. Maybe Conrad can supplement a little bit on the inside.
Yeah, thank you, Walter. Actually, my organization's pioneer programs named de-empower since year 2016 complements a lot what Walter is doing, but in a more comprehensive approach, because we witness there's a very obvious gap here. That's how employers and potential supervisors who need to work with a PoD, their potential needs, psychological and physical needs in the workplace. That's why in designing the de-empower, in order not to duplicate what Waters or the West in Hong Kong, many organizations in Hong Kong doing similar kinds of job assistance program, but we intend to manage ours into a comprehensive one. Well, ours is a 6-month program with 6 months and plus 9-month coaching for the so-called beneficiaries, that means the PoD. And in employer side, we will have a dedicated coach as well to the diverse supervisors. So that is very, very important. And we will, because we have to bridge the gap, the perceptions as well. Even though the boss of a company or the key decision maker decided to employ a PoD in whatever kinds of functions or job role, and if the supervisor, the direct supervisors, hesitates, and he or she doesn't know how to take care of a PoD, so it will not make possible a sustainable employment. What we mean for a sustainable employment is that he can work there not only due to CSR purpose, not only due to a short-term internship, but really a meaningful, sustainable employment based on oneself ability. So quote a few examples. The first cohort graduate from de-empowered. He's right now still working in KPMG as a translation officer, 10% visual visions only, and a completely blind young man working in a local property agency as a customer service. So all the kinds of job they are having right now are related to those stigmatized job nature. They are not doing a massage, not doing a call center. They're doing customer client facing stuff or really based on their background. So that is very important that you have to work closely, hand in hand with your corporate partners. So that kind of de-stigmatizations need to educate well in the employer side. In the beginning of my introductions, employers, if we look at economics theories, is the demand side. How we can nurture demand from employer side, let them believe and trust and have a peace of mind to employ a PoD. And at the supply side, not everyone like water. Be both in love to challenge his own limits. So we need to enable, give them a platform, give them proper coaching, counseling. So that's the art in between. And same as Marina just said, it's not easy. And it will be a long way to go in this. We have just kickstarted a little step. So it's a long way to go, and I really encourage and challenge each of you. You may be from commercial, and you may be from education. Definitely you can be one of the change makers to start to consider to work with PoD and employ PoD. So any other questions? Yes.
Thanks for all the necessary. I would like to ask Walter, as a PoD, because I learned from your experience of some frustration in the school campus, what do you think about how the physical environment could be built to promote inclusiveness? Do you have any expectation or wish on that?
For the physical environment, I think actually the building department have the regulations to talk about the physical environment, for example, the accessibility regulations and so on. But I think the most important thing is about the people understanding. So when I'm going to talk about, when I was talking about the campus, actually after the 2014, the UGC, which is the University Grants Committee, started to have short-term funding to the university to have each of the university would have the SEN officer to be able to help to centralize the coordinates with the school life for people with disabilities. So I think that is the very important part for actually people understand the professor trainings, so that actually it's a real life experience from me is when a professor written all the equations on the whiteboard, and then when I asked her, could I be able to copy anything from you? So, but she's just said, actually, you can just listen. And then I just questioned, if I can just listen, how come you write so many equations on the board? So I think that that is very important. So on the other side, I think now is the society is moving to the digital life. But about the digital inclusion, there's not much conversation to talk about this. And then what I'm doing is in some of the committees, actually I'm advocating the digital inclusion is very important. Not just the web accessibilities and apps accessibilities, but how about we could be able to use the digital banking, the online registration system, and also doing the online e-commerce retail. Those are very important things. And also for the employer side, we notice a lot of the situation, the websites for the recruitment sites could be accessible, but when candidates work in the team, how about the internal system? And some of the internal system, if they are not accessible, it would have another barriers, even though the job nature is suitable, but the system is not accessible. So I think we need to be focused on more on the smart technology and digital inclusion as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. So we have to leverage and make use of technologies to enhance the inclusiveness in the societies. But the very, very important, everyone, each of us has to have that sense of inclusiveness and to nurture that kind of inclusiveness. So you have to step out to feel and to experience how inclusive is. So almost to the end of these sessions, we have bring along to these sessions 2 open sessions for you all to experience what is inclusiveness by our organization's PoD. So there is a leaflet on the chair desk with the 2 QR code. So just take your time to register, and then from what we can offer is that we can offer you an authentic experience to have a touch on what is the possible experience can be delivered by a group of talent PoD. So thank you very much today. Thanks for your time and your effort. And feel free to then go after the event with our speaker. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Walter, and thank you, Renji.
Thank you, Cora.
Thank you very much. So I think that's the end for the sessions. Thank you.
Thank you.